Hello and welcome to Moneylife. This is Sucheta Dalal. I'm going to talk about PMC Bank again today. This is the Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank, which literally has almost gone bust, and from 23rd September, people haven't been allowed to withdraw money. Now, if you've been watching my older video blogs, you would know that on 4th November, I talked about an RBI inspection report of the bank. It's a question that all of us have wondered. RBI inspects banks every year. What do they find? Did they not have a clue about what was happening? Were they really fooled as much as the RBI claimed they were in the Bombay High Court? Well, take a look at what we have found. Now, this right to information report itself has been a huge battle that was fought by activist Girish Mittal. In fact, he had to go all the way to the Supreme Court before he got hold of it. In response to his application, instead of sending him reports for 4 years, the RBI sent him only 1 year, which is 2014-15. When I talked about that, I thought that the inspector had clued on to a few things that were happening, and if those were investigated more deeply, the RBI could possibly have cottoned on to the scam and this big problem wouldn't have happened. Of course, we knew the conclusion. A 7,500 crore plus scandal has happened, which is why depositors are not getting their money back. So we know that the RBI didn't follow up on that report. But how bad was it? So Girish Mittal filed an appeal because the remaining 3 weren't set, and he has recently been sent 3 more reports for 2015-16, 16-17 and 17-18. What do they show? It is scandalous. Even the leads that were found in 14-15 have not been followed up. In fact, the next 2 years is a virtual clean sheet. What is worse is that year after year, the RBI comes up with inconsequential details and just does not even a bean counter job, because it's filled with trivia and procedural stuff which doesn't get into any details while pretending that it does. So I'm going to run you through a few of the things. I've looked at all 3 of the subsequent reports, compared them with 14-15, which I think is relatively better, and I'm going to tell you what they have come up with. So it's slightly technical, or in fact not even technical, because the RBI hasn't found anything. So each report comes up with what they call divergences, which is that they point out that the bank hasn't declared all the bad loans, but the amounts involved, which they want the bank to note, are so trivial, it's less than 1% or more. It is meaningless as compared to the size of the scam that was under their nose, and RBI apparently had its eyes wide shut. Now, let's look at a few things that come up in the process. So, every year, I talked about 2014-15. If you go back there, they had one transaction where Waryam Singh, who was the chairman of the bank, he had been a director earlier, he was considered a part of the promoter group of HDIL, which is Housing Development and Infrastructure Limited, belonging to the Vadavans. As you know, the HDIL group has virtually been using PMC Bank like a piggy bank. They've been accessing whatever funds they want, whenever they want it. Every year, the RBI has found some transaction where Waryam Singh has sat on the board while being a director on HDIL. All this is noted. And mind you, when reports are sent to Girish Mittal, RBI doesn't just send out the reports. Every single name is inked out with whiting, including the name of the chairman, the name of the MD, which is beyond ridiculous, because everybody knows the name of the managing director or the chairman of the bank. But diligently, the information officer and the RBI is still whiting this out. If they used half that energy to do their inspections well, people wouldn't have got cheated. And remember, RBI officers and the clerical people have lost 100 crores each through their unions in this bank. So some more diligence is surely expected. So there is a transaction with Waryam Singh. This property that's bought, the sum total of that property is 55 crores. There are 3 transactions. There is a list, and I'm showing you the table. The RBI inspectors don't even go into whether the valuation was correct. And if you have a noting, remember this is an inspection by the banking regulator and supervisor. So when This blandly notes that he didn't recuse himself, he participated in a decision where there is a related party transaction. Acts like this need to have consequences, need to have punishments. RBI has no problem cracking the whip on all kinds of people for trivial issues and imposing fines. Year after year, the inspectors note this like as though they are noting the color on the wall. This wall is blue. Y.M. Singh sat there and did not recuse himself. Why didn't they dig deeper? Will they give us the name of the inspectors and tell us why was there such a shoddy and lackadaisical job? So I'm going to run through some of the findings. Okay. One of the issues that was raised in 2014-15 was about cash credit limits. So the inspection report in that 14-15 year said this was a serious flaw. What was the flaw? That cash credit limits were sanctioned for 3 years at a stretch. They were not subject to annual review as is required by the RBI Master Circular. And the inspection report wanted a stringent review of the way cash credit is given to ensure that quality of operation of the borrower and safety of funds of the bank. It's a serious statement by any standards compared to the bland reports which we're going to put up. Nothing was done. In fact, the next 2 years, the inspection reports don't even refer to it. The third year comes back with a completely bland, nonsensical statement which just notes the fact that there are issues with cash credit. So where is the stringent review? Was it done? What did the RBI inspect? Was there a follow-up? We have no answer. All this is pertinent, especially in the light of the confession that was made by PMC Bank's Managing Director, Joy Thomas. In fact, in his confession letter, he said that the HDIL group or the Vadavans used to overdraw money anytime they wanted to. They used to run up, they used to be late in paying it back, and then they would pay it back with interest whenever it suited them. Like I said, a piggy bank. Now, if this can happen only if there is an issue with cash credit limits being sanctioned, not reviewed, allowed. Also remember, when he's talking about cash credit limits being overused in a confession, this can't be, a crore or two. The size of the scandal is 7,500 crore. So this must have been happening in a large amount of transactions, however well hidden, and should have come to the notice of the RBI. No such thing. One observation that appears in all 4 reports in the exact same manner without action and without correction is that the current accounts by the bank do not mention credit facilities that the same customer has availed from other banks. This, the RBI thinks, is an important check. Now, if it is important, how can a bank flout the RBI inspection report 4 years in a row, and for each one of those 4 years, the inspection, like a clerical observation, notes that it's not being done? Why would this bank ever worry about RBI inspections? And why shouldn't we expect bigger scandals in other banks? Because remember, we have a couple of inspection reports. We have 4 others that we have talked about with the larger banks. If this is the quality, God knows what they are hiding. Don't forget that State Bank of India itself had hidden bad loans worth 11,000 crore plus, which the RBI has noticed only this year. So, like I said, it's something that all of us have to worry about. So, here's another issue. Conflicts with HDIL. Like I said, Y.M. Singh is on the board. Here's a table. It X's it out. But very clearly, they're talking about the same man being a director. What does the RBI note? That he was on the board. It is pertinent to note that Y.M. Singh has, this is from the inspection report and I'm quoting, it's pertinent to note that XXX, which we know is Y.M. Singh, the former chairman, had been a director of the bank since June 1999 when he was a director on the board of XXX, which I'm sure is HDIL because we've done our investigation from the period April 27, 2006 to March 23, 2015. Is that all? But this is how RBI inspectors are. All it does is a mild note that he hasn't recused himself. Like I said, 3 or 4 properties worth 55.5 crore, which are in this table below, have been bought. Was the valuation right? Why were they purchased? Was it a kind of bailout? Why did these particular properties need to be published? Forget finding any answers in the inspection report. There is nothing. 2016-17, in fact, PMC Bank was given a clean sheet, while the next year there was yet another transaction about a overdraft of 30 crores sanctioned in December 2010, which was enhanced to 40 crores, and again clearly it refers to HDIL, though everything is X'd out. The same Varyam Singh was the director. I'm not even going to go into it again because it's just so outrageous. The next para is another transgression, and I'm going to show you an image of how the RBI X's it out so that we have no way of figuring how serious it is. That means here's a 7,500 crore scam. Investors and depositors are in court, and RBI is busy using white ink so that we don't know the true state of affairs. Hopefully a forensic audit that has now been asked is going to come up with a lot more. All we have is leaks about it. Now there's a third factor. Remember, all these factors in a multiple of maybe 100 or 1,000 such transgressions is what caused the scam and caused the bank to fail. So if there are these little notings, it is only a lack of interest and a lack of supervision that didn't catch it. One is about unique customer ID. 2014-15 report calls it a huge find that the bank had not allotted unique customer identification codes to all its customers. And the numbers were massive. 1,08,807 customers had not been given these unique codes. This is over 13%. The next 2 years, no mention of it at all. 2017-18 comes back to it. I mean, think about how outrageous this is. What do they say in 2017 and 18 and the next 2 years? The codes have been given, which means that it was a simple job, easy to comply, the bank didn't care. But 17-18 has done a little bit of checking. So what do they find? Yes, codes have been allocated, but there are several which are duplicate or multiple codes allotted. Now, what is the meaning of a unique code if multiple codes can be allocated? And shouldn't this have rung an alarm? Because you're talking about a fully automated core banking system. A core banking system based on the same name, same PAN card, same KYC details, which include your name and address, cannot possibly allot multiple unique codes. And obviously, this again was the genesis of a problem which RBI hasn't bothered to look at. Then ineffective audit committees. 2014-15 found that audit committees were deficient, both internal and statutory audit. They needed them to pull up their shoes, including passing strictures on the audit committee. In fact, many of them are sitting in jail now. The next 2 years, a clean sheet, fully satisfied. They have no reports about deficiencies. There's again, a bland statement, but it's essentially a clean sheet. On audit quality also, like I said, internal and external audit asked in 1 year. The next 2 years, they completely satisfied. The passing mention of some failure, like I said, to assess working capital, inconsequential trivia, as I keep saying. 2017-18 is very interesting. Okay, so what does the report do? Obviously, the inspector is hard at work. So what does he find? There are 484 loan accounts, which he says, which account for 0.001%, as small as that have an outstanding balance of huge number, 2,304 crores, and together they form 30% of advances. This, he says, is a credit concentration risk. Now, if you didn't know this bank had a 7,500 crore scandal, you would be quite impressed at the work done by the RBI inspector. He's pointing out that even 0.001%, it shows how 2,300 crores had been lent to 484 accounts, maybe fake ones. We don't know what they are. RBI doesn't bother to go into details. All it says is one macro vague number like concentration risk. What we know subsequently is the concentration risk was enormous. It was one group, HDIL, which was using this bank like a piggy bank. And the amount was not a small 2000 crore, it was 7500 crore. I am willing to bet that these 484 accounts would be part of the whole mess that's HDIL. But look at the inspection report. Nothing. No deep diving into it, no asking for details. If they had found out, maybe things would have been caught a year earlier. What does the report get filled with? There's a whole lot about priority sector, which is all essentially checkboxes. So RBI has a list of things they have to look at: capital, priority sector lending. Most of it is bland statements of fact or some little nitpicking. They also have stuff like whether there are ramps for people with disabilities. It's a good thing that banks should have it. It's a good thing that the inspector looks at notice boards. But let's not confuse the two. The inspector's job is not to do a physical inspection. Why not have it done by somebody else? Send a housekeeping agency to look at things like this. Send a housekeeping agency to look at cleanliness or notice boards. When an inspector goes there, he's supposed to look at things that could lead to a failure, a scandal, bad accounting, hiding of bad loans. Instead, we have a bunch of trivia. Now, as I said before, if the RBI inspectors had shown even part of the diligence that they do in inking out these reports that are sent to Girish Mittal, we would be, confident about safer banking. I have to end this by saying that we are actually quite impressed by Governor Shaktikanta Das, because he's been a lot more open. All this has happened before his time, where we had rock star governors and economists who couldn't care less, obviously, about bad loans and supervision. They were only interested, they were primarily focused on interest rates. Let's hope that Mr. Das is going to look at this with new eyes, revamp inspections, and focus a little more on protecting stakeholders. I think we have something to look forward to. Thank you.